If I may set the scene for our panel. All our panel members, you're welcome.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, and thank you for sparing your time.
Thank you.
Busy, your executives, but this is a very key conversation to have, and it's very timely. As I was saying, I would like to set the scene of what's going to be the backbone of our conversation. So what we have in the panel is a head of a global governing body, the RICS. We have somebody representing the client team. We have an entrepreneur representing real estate. We have somebody representing the funding of developments and projects. And we have somebody from the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. So without further ado, I would like all my panel members to introduce themselves. Just 2 minutes, please, no more than 2 minutes. We'll start with the president of the RICS, Clement.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks for having me. My name is Clement Slaugh. I'm the director and head of evaluation and development of an Asian property company called Hong Kong Land. We own projects and portfolios across Asia, from Beijing to Jakarta, from Cambodia to Japan. I have also another role, which Alan just mentioned. I'm the current president of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyor. Our institution has 134,000 members across 146 countries at the moment. And we are the standard-setting professional body, which I'm able to share with you in more details. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you for that, Clement. Next to you, Matt.
Alan, thank you, and welcome to my fellow panel members. So just a brief introduction from my side. I am the group director for a company called Profica, and we are the delivery partners for global CBRE across Africa. So my focus for the business is pure delivery and operations across the business. And we are Pan-African country, so a Pan-African business at least. We really pride ourselves on having presence in not all of the 54 African countries, but we've got a good presence across the east and the west of the country, the southern part of Africa, and a lot in the Francophone regions as well. So our focus is really on the investor markets and as well as what we call the occupier markets of the real estate space. And it's really a focus on big project delivery, and also some of the smaller projects across the continent. My previous experience was in the UK, where I worked for various global construction firms and consulting firms. More recently, I've settled in South Africa. I'm based in Johannesburg, but obviously do a lot of travel across the country into various parts of the African continent.
Thank you for that, Matt. Over to you, Pam.
Good evening. It's evening here in Cape Town, where I am based. I'm in Hermanus at the moment at our holiday home because it's Friday evening, and that's why we're here. But thank you for having me. This really is a great privilege. If I see who the other speakers are, I feel tiny like this because I am just an entrepreneur. I have been in real estate for 35 years, though, with two of the big corporate companies, real estate companies in South Africa. And 9 years ago, I decided to start my own entrepreneurial real estate company called Reds, etc. And I have roughly 120, I think, about agents currently working across the country for my company. So I am at ground level. I've also served on a number of boards, including the Services CETA, which is the Education and Training Authority. I'm a big supporter of education That's why I'm there. I've got a master's degree in education, and I'm lucky that I've been able to combine my education background with my real estate background, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much, Pam. Over to you, Kuseni. All right. Kuseni, I think, is having a bit of a problem with connectivity. Let's go over to Desire, please. Mr. Lomu.
Yes, good evening, colleagues. Good evening, Alan. So I'm Desire Lomu. I'm representing the AFCFTA Secretariat in this panel. So the AFCFTA Secretariat is this continental market of 55 African countries with 1.2 billion of consumers, and with a project of having a market where you can freely move goods from a country to another without any borders, without any custom fees. So basically, we are here to also share the experience on how we build on the regulations across the continent to ease the development of a very strong construction industry in Africa. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lomu. Kuseni, back to you. Okay. It seems like Kuseni is still having connectivity issues. Nii, please, if you can introduce yourself.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks for the opportunity to speak at the conference, and thanks and welcome to my other co-panelists. My name is Nii Adile. I work for Standard Bank in the capacity as head of real estate finance for where we define as Africa regions. Africa regions for us is about 20 plus countries in the continent outside of South Africa, which is our home, our head office. We are the largest bank in Africa by total assets, and we are the largest lender to real estate, commercial real estate in the continent. We deploy real estate funding solutions in over 15 countries, and we support clients on a Pan-African basis, both at the country level and across multiple countries at the same time. Thanks for having us here.
Thank you so much, Nii. And I suppose I can introduce Mr. Kuseni. Kuseni is the chairman of Massmart in Africa, and he's also chairman of the board of Aspen Pharmaceutical Holdings. He's representing the client as the client in terms of our panel today, to have a view and contribute to what he thinks should be the future trends of construction and real estate, and what he has viewed or what he thinks needs input from us as stakeholders when delivering projects for him or for the real estate. Kuseni, can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly? How's your connection?
I can hear you.
I don't think I did justice introducing you, because it's, you can introduce yourself so everyone gets an understanding of who you were.
Hello, everyone. It's a great honor and privilege to be part of this very crucial panel. My name is Kuseni Dlamini. I'm chairman of Massmart. We are a leading general merchandise and retail and wholesaler in Africa. We operate across 13 African countries. We've got 411 stores, 48,000 employees across the continent. I'm also chairman of Aspen Pharmacare. We operate across 50 countries, first world and emerging markets. Our product footprint goes across 150 countries. We currently are the manufacturers of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine here in South Africa, which is manufactured for Africa and the rest of the world. And we're very proud and humbled to be playing a role in combating the global pandemic that is facing all of us. I very much look forward to being part of this great panel. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kuseni. As you can see, I had done your introduction in justice. I had left out so many things, but thank you for that. So let's kick off our conversation. And just before we get into that, I would like to introduce myself. Lastly, my name is Alan Wanga. I'm a chartered quantity surveyor by profession. I'm also a global program lead for CBRE, and I head CBRE's relationship with our partners in Africa and Middle East. So if we kick off, I'll start off with Matt. Matt, in your role as the CEO of Profica, of course, we work together, based on what you've said, you are delivery partners on the continent. In your view, what types of clients do you see are entering the market, both global and locally?
Ellen, thank you. So I maybe wanted to just provide a little bit of context, and not to sort of repeat what a lot of people may know, but our view of the African continent and the potential of the African continent is extremely positive. We believe it's a massive growth market, and our strategies are really built around that. So to get into a little bit of detail around your question, our focus as a business is really Pan-African, as I said earlier, and we try and split that big patch of Africa into into segments that can just be a little bit more manageable. And the cultures are so diverse, as we all know. Across whether you're looking in the Francophone region, to the West, or just purely the West African space. East Africa is another sort of big focus area of ours. And then obviously everything Southern, in what we call the Southern African development countries. And then we've got what we call North Africa. So, we as a business, and again, just a little bit of more context, our focuses are really on five main opportunities across that space, which is, we are seeing a significant population growth across Africa, and our focus is really just on that, because of the opportunities and the urbanization that we're seeing across that space. Africa is industrializing, so there's massive growth in terms of production and industrialization, and then Africa is also pushing the boundaries in terms of just filling that gap around infrastructure, and the infrastructure growth. We know it's a little bit of a hamstring for the African countries in terms of they just haven't got, and we haven't got the sort of infrastructure that is required, to be able to just grow at the rapid race. And then there's sort of a big unleashing of opportunity in the sort of agriculture and resource wealth part of Africa. So again, leveraging off that and just being geographically positioned to capitalize on that is quite important. And then the last one is, and last but not least, is just around the tech initiatives and just the growth of the internet sort of growth across the country, and that leads into data centers, which is a big growth area, which I'll talk about. So to go into the detail of your question, it's very cyclical for us, so depending on where the economies are and where the global economies are, we really see every single global client coming into Africa. So I know that's a bit of a broad response to you, but it is very cyclical. When our hospitality is up and we've got the big hotels being developed, industrial and logistics might be down. And similarly, when healthcare is up, any one of the other markets might be down. So we do see it being sort of depending on the region and the country. It does really depend which clients are coming in to those specific regions. But what we're seeing at the moment, and I want to just talk a little bit about some of the bigger sort of sectors that are we really seeing are moving. And the first one, and it wouldn't be a surprise to anyone, is the data center space. So we've got a lot of sea cables coming into various parts of Africa, and on the back of that, it's been really exciting to just see the opportunities and both the hyperscalers, coming into that space, as well as the colo operators, the likes of African Data Centers, Terrico, NTT is another big one, Vantage is also another big one, over and above the big hyperscalers that are going into those regions. So, until maybe a year or so ago, they were everything below sort of a megawatt in terms of what was being developed. And now what we're seeing is the much bigger data centers being developed across Africa. So South Africa really is where everything started. Cape Town with AWS was a big focus amongst other operators. But now what we're seeing is it really flowing into Africa. So, we're seeing a lot of activity in Nigeria. We're seeing a huge amount of activity in Kenya. And then as far as up as Cairo and those North African countries. So that's certainly where we're seeing a lot of clients come in, and there's a lot of activity there. The other big ones are hospitality. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the acquisition that Casada made recently, which has made them one of the biggest West African or Francophone hotel operators. So there's a huge amount of activity there, and what we're seeing is a lot of refurbishment of existing hotels that that have either been a little bit run down or just haven't had the investment into those facilities, and then a lot of new builds as well. So hospitality is another big space, and then just with what happened with COVID over the last sort of 20 months, we saw a massive decline in the commercial office space. And a lot of clients sort of repositioning themselves and really just taking a view to say, listen, are we going to go back to the office? Is it a time to sort of clean up and consolidate a little bit? And we are certainly seeing that in the commercial office space. So we're seeing a lot of consolidation. We're seeing a lot of rethinking around, okay, what does this new normal mean in terms of office space? And what do we want to do with our office space? I think there's also a big focus on health and well-being. So not only trying to attract the best talent in these regions, but really just a focus on attracting the best talent and just making sure that clients have got the right sort of environment for their staff to operate at their most optimum. And be able to just function in a bit of a hybrid model, so not everyone's coming back to the office, but it's more of a hybrid model in terms of what that office space means and what clients are already trying to do. So I think that in a nutshell, I hope that gives everyone a little bit of context in terms of what type of clients are coming in and where what sort of regions we are operating in. I mean, the last comment I wanted to make is just the diversity of population across Africa. You've got 190 million people in Nigeria. Egypt and Ethiopia are the next biggest sort of spaces with 90 million people. All the other countries are sort of sitting either below the 20 million mark or just above that. So there are sort of really big economies and slightly smaller economies across the African space. So it's just really how we operate and deliver to those. But where we're seeing the growth in those smaller sort of countries, that's where probably some of the really exciting stuff is happening, not only around infrastructure, but you're around sort of the big oil and gas projects. And on the back of those oil and gas projects, you get residential, commercial, retail, all of it really flows from there. So hopefully that answers your question and it gives you a bit of context.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Matt. I mean, that what you've highlighted can go in so many directions, but keeping it on what we are trying to achieve here today and share with the audience and among the stars, I think that's spot on, and that's what in my own experience is what I'm seeing, and it's exciting for the continent. We're having a varied number of clients coming into the continent, and what that means, it raises the bar in terms of our local professionals delivering projects. It raises the bar in terms of trying to get the standards that are required global and locally. So it's exciting. So that brings me into real estate. Pam, in your view, where do you think real estate is going? I mean, you have a good portfolio, you have a good real estate business. Is it digital transformation that is enabling you scale up? Is it education? Just give us an insight of the real estate picture from your point of view in Africa.
Thank you so much for that, Alan. Yes, to me, it is extremely important to realize that if we're looking at the challenges in the real estate environment, and there are challenges in the times that we're living in, and especially for the future, it's our responsibility to make sure that we handle this as securely and as well as we possibly can. I've been in this business for 35 years. I've got a responsibility towards not only my agents that work for me, my personnel, my children, my husband, my family, but also to my clients and the people that we deal with on a daily basis in Africa as a whole, because there's a huge responsibility in terms of real estate. Why do I say that? And it's also important that you understand where I come from. And when I studied education, I studied philosophy of education, and it turned out that I was named a phenomenologist. And that is somebody who goes back to the phenomenon, to the start of things. And I want to know why. I want to know what the purpose is. What's the purpose of this? What's the purpose of us doing this, of being in the real estate environment? Why is it important for our futures, for our children's futures, for our security in Africa? Why is it important that we look at real estate in a different way? Not just technologically. Obviously, technology is hugely important, but I want to take it from the education point of view. And I think there are two basic aspects that really need urgent attention from all of us, people that feel that we have some kind of responsibility and accountability towards our continent. And if we look at the future challenges, there are two basic aspects, I believe, that need very urgent attention currently, because it's not just about technology, but it's also about the education, as I've said. Now, number one, the education. What do I mean by that? I mean that what I'm trying to say is real estate ownership is such an important part of any person's life, of family life, of our futures, of our children's future. If we don't understand the security that real estate can provide for our continent, then we don't understand anything. So ownership needs to be understood from all aspects of family security, but also to legal security. What do we understand? Are we educated? Do we know? And what is our responsibility to educate the people around us in terms of title deeds, ownership of property, the legal processes that need to be followed? What is a contract? What do you do? What are your responsibilities if you enter into an agreement of sale, or even just to lease a property, to buy a property? What kind of property it is doesn't really matter. If it's a home, that's where you start. That gives security to your family and gives security to the people around you. Why do we need to do this? The question that I always ask is why? It's for that security. The second basic aspect that needs attention is obviously technology education. It's wonderful to have the technology. There are lots of people out there. All of you sitting there, all the people speaking today have access. But do we really understand the workings behind the technology and how it can improve our lives and our businesses, our small businesses, our large businesses? They've all got high-tech guys working for them, but the people that actually have to have that, have to get the positive side of it. How do we look after them, and do we look after them at all? So I'm back with education. So I can't get this thing here. Just come help me quickly. I need to just click here. I can't find it. Sorry. I need my help here. See, that's technology for you. That's why education is technology. But for me, I've been thinking about this so hard and long since you sent me this question. And then I was thinking, what about the ethical side of technology? Has that come in at all? Yes, we use it. Yes, it's good for our business. Yes, we advertise. We're on Facebook. We're all over. We're on Instagram. All of those things, we use that, and we teach our agents to use it, to advertise on it, to get clients, to get buyers, to get sellers, to show the world out there who you are, to promote your personal brand. All of those things are done. But do we ever consider the ethical side of technology? So education in terms of technology, in my mind, needs to be taken further than just utilizing it in the business world to make it more accessible and move faster, because that's what we want to do. But what and how do we do that? The ethical and trust dimensions are the things we need to think of very seriously, pertaining to the tools that we utilize. And this needs to be incorporated into our children's education from the very beginning, from the 5 years old. My 5-year-old granddaughter said to me the other day when I said to her, "What's this word in Afrikaans?" She said, "Oma, Google it." She's 5 years old. She said to me, "Why don't you Google it? Like, please, you know." So our children need to understand, because they are part of this, it's part of their lives. They need to be educated in terms of the ethical side of it, so that when we utilize it, our clients and our staff and the people that we deal with and our other business partners, that they can trust what we are saying and what we are doing by utilizing this technology. It's all about knowledge and experience. If you've got the knowledge, that's wonderful. You've studied, you've got your degree, you understand how it works, you're an IT expert. But you have to put this to work before you can really integrate your knowledge and experience in such a way that it can make a meaningful contribution to the world out there. What are the ultimate goals of the integration of knowledge and experience? 3 things, actually 4. Stability. Think of the family, think of owning a home, but also think of your business where you utilize all of these. When you purchase a property, it gives you stability, a sense of stability. Independence, very important. You don't have to depend on somebody else. You've got your own house, you've got your own building, you've got your own office, whatever. And it gives you freedom. So those to me are the most important things: stability, independence, and freedom. But not just for you personally or for the people around you personally that you are assisting, also financially. Otherwise, you're running a charity. If you're an entrepreneur, it's got to be sustainable, which means also financially. But when we are dealing with real estate, we need to remain cognizant of the fact that buying a home has a totally different storyline to investing in a commercial or industrial property for return on investment or internal rate of returns and that kind of thing. Yes, they are all there, but we need to understand, and that's part of the education process, that there are majorly differing target markets out there that need to be approached differently by utilizing the technology differently. We have different target markets. We're currently doing, my company is doing a marketing of a retirement estate in Wellington, which is here in the Cape Winelands. Our target market is totally different to the student market in Stellenbosch that are looking to buy flats near to the university and apartments. So when you use your technology, you must use it in such a knowledgeable manner that actually speaks to the target market that you are wanting to address. So we need to utilize all the different platforms in a responsible manner to ensure safe and ethical connectivity, cybersecurity, real-time data, information sharing, all the things that we utilize this wonderful technology that is available to us. But I want to end off by just saying the most important of all is that we must never forget that we're dealing with human beings at all aspects at all times, except when there are bots and things around, but we check them out. We are dealing with human beings. We're selling a property. We're purchasing. We're finding somebody we're trying to find the right property for the right person. It's the most important, probably, and the biggest investment they're going to make in their lives. It is something that we've got to do for the right reasons. We mustn't just do it for doing a job. We must do it to assist people. So what we need is sincere and open communication when it comes to technology as well. But the human touch, we must never forget. We are always there's always a human being behind all of this. Technology is important, but it shouldn't be all-consuming. Thanks for the opportunity.
Fantastic insights, Pam. Thank you so much. And, just to step back, I think that's such a great message. As much as there's the drive for digital transformation, especially in our industry, as you all know, Matt, Clement, the lockdown has caused us to adapt quickly and take on different platforms to get projects done. We couldn't travel, projects being delivered all over the continent, and we've relied on technology. But I think Pam's point is so critical. Do we understand what we're using? The education bit, the security of it, the data sharing and information, and also the pride of the real estate we are buying, be it commercial, be it residential. In Africa, as we all know, property is so key. That's like your wealth. I own a house, I own a property, I own a building, the business people with commercial buildings, the offices, that's your pride. So it's important to understand and get ourselves educated in the mechanisms that govern that whole process. And also, I think the key one, the way you ended it, Pam, we must never lose the human touch. And I think that is so critical as we adapt into the digital transformation, the digital age, where things are done quickly and without thinking or common sense. I think it's important to take that step back, pause, understand that we're dealing with fellow human beings and there's emotion around it. They're investing loads of money, and then we engage. Thank you so much for that, Pam. And that conversation around real estate and the way Matt came in with the clients and the type of clients we're dealing with, and the standards you alluded to, Pam, brings me nicely into Clement, the president of my body, the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. I guess I have a couple of questions, and we've had these conversations before. In Africa at the moment, there's really a need and a call to governing bodies such as the RICS, especially the RICS, to, I think, partner with the local country bodies. Because what has happened is you find that in most African countries, they have their own local bodies established, be it quantity surveying, be it property management, be it project management, being real estate surveyors. They have their own bodies. And I feel there's a disconnect now with bodies like the RICS, and conversations like this that we're having, I think, start that conversation to get global governing body like the RICS plugged into those local bodies. And like Matt said, we have a lot of global clients coming into the country demanding the same standards they see in Europe or Americas or APAC. So you, as the current president of the RICS, one, how do you see that connectivity happening? And let's start with that. How do you see that connectivity happening, Clement?
Thank you, Alan. I think this is a very good question. Although RICS is a global professional institution, we do have members in the African continent. So at the moment, I think we have around 1,100 professional members across the Sub-Saharan Africa, and we see that that's a very important kind of relationship that we, being a international professional body, how we're able to engage with the local professional institution so that we could able to collaborate and work together in promoting a better built environment by adopting some sort of standard that we all agree. And of course, I mean, we all know that this kind of exercise need to work hand in hand, not just on the professional side, but also with the relevant government authority, the academia, so that we can able to broaden the base and bring that kind of understanding and adoption by different part of the stakeholders and our professional member. At the moment, RICS standards are being implemented in some African countries. But at the same time, I think there are some sort of challenges we are facing right now. And our key long-term goal is to ensure more consistent uptake of our standard, taking into consideration of the local context to be taken up in different parts of Africa continent. This is likely to be achieved, through, as I mentioned earlier, the partnership with local bodies. And it's not just RICS, we're saying one thing. And with the help of our members, I think we could able to have better understanding how international standard or RI standard could be able to apply in different part of Asia, different part of Africa, taking into the local situation and conditions. For instance, I think in Nigeria, our valuation standard called Red Book has already been adopted, and likewise the international valuation standard in their entirety. So this is something that's driven by our local members in Nigeria, working with the relevant stakeholders, the government and investment community. And in Kenya, parts of our RICS valuation standard and all of our international valuation standard has already been adopted as well. In Uganda, we are working with local experts to see how we get able to prepare a valuation standard applicable to that particular country. And we are also pushing through one of the latest version in terms of international cost management standard and the international land measurement standard. Let me give you some background about the international cost measurement standard. Normally, in a project, we only measure the cost life cycle of a building or project, taking into the financial consideration. The latest version, version 3, that we are going to release and publish, take into account of carbon footprint, which is exactly what the COP26 is all about. So we could able to take into the consideration from the inception of the project, the construction of the project, the completion, operation, and until it's decommissioning, the carbon footprint that will produce by that particular project. So we could able to track the life cycle of carbon footprint on top of the financial implication to that. In other areas, we are trying to sign some of a memorandum of understanding with local group so that all these kind of RI standard or international standard will be recognized or in Africa. And I think we have a partnership with Ghana Institute of Surveyor and the Town and Country Planning Association in Kenya. So you can see that we have already some sort of local context and collaboration with the local authority. However, I think we need to, in order to achieve all these kind of work, I think we still need to recognize there are challenges in front of us, in particular, how we can get through the recognition process by the government authority or the local stakeholders. And sometimes it could be quite tedious. For argument's sake, in Nigeria, it took us 5 years just to get recognition of our valuation standard. So the timing could be quite unpredictable. So if we could able to have a better kind of promotion and education to our stakeholders or the community at large, I think it would just help for us to get our standard, be it the standard that we work together with the local institution or the international standard, be recognized. And one thing I think I echo with what Pam just mentioned, it's all about education, and we need to take it in a bigger context. So we are talking about education, not just the professional standard or those kind of expertise, but also we should broaden it to the community at large and upbringing of the common knowledge or understanding of the community from the professional to the layman. What are the importance or significance in adopting this kind of standard can help to enhance the built environment that we are creating in Africa, which has tremendous opportunities and potential, in particular in years to come. And as we are competing with the COP26 in terms of the built environment, I think Africa will be one of the key components in make sure that we can able to achieve the net zero carbon footprint in longer run, as there's a lot of development going on, as what Matthew just mentioned about. And I also see that if we could able to work together to share the knowledge base, it would help everyone. I mean, not just in Africa, but in other part of the world. Last but not the least, I also echo what Pam just mentioned. Ethics is one of the most fundamental pillars of our professionalism. Without ethics, I think whatever we say, whatever we do will not be recognized and will not be able to produce positive outcome as a result. So I think on the other hand, we should also, by collaborating with the stakeholders, professional body, engaging the community at large, just to make sure that whatever we do is for the best interest of our future generation in coming up with a more sustainable, greener built environment in the future. I hope I could answer your question, Alan.
Fantastic, Clement. You've answered it and even given me more. Thank you so much. I mean, again, that's exciting. I like the way it's all interconnected, which is, why it was important for this panel to sit down together and have these conversations. And you've mentioned you've made some very good points. I mean, most importantly, the conversations are already going, the partnerships are being established. Of course, we need to do more, but that takes everyone playing their part. There are so many other conversations happening outside of this one. So it's good the entire industry and the stakeholders in the industry and people I know personally are having these conversations at local level, through the RICS, they're engaging local bodies. So that's exciting. And the other issue you've highlighted is the standards and the ethics. I think that is so critical, and it feeds into education, as Pam said. So it's all interlinked. So it's we've run out of time because it's the time we're allocated. However, before I get to closing remarks, the key stakeholders who didn't get to speak, Mr. Desire Lomu, Africa Free Trade Agreement, was going to come in to link the standards from the RICS through the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement to assist, maybe work in partnership, because they have the trade links across the continent to be able to drive that and support. And that conversation will be ongoing after this panel. And then Mr. Kuseni, as a client, you are going to share your insights into what you should expect and what you want to see from people like Matt, who are operational. And then Ni, of course, the question was, all you funders always say there's money to fund projects, but when you speak to developers, they always say there's no money. It's hard to get funding. So you are going to open up and give us insights onto actually how to approach the issue of getting funding for developments, because it's available. And I know from Standard Bank, you're the biggest, so there's processes, but maybe people on the continent are scared and afraid of the process. And again, it goes back to standards and ethics in the way we approach all this. We've run out of time, our audience, but as you can see, these are very critical conversations. They'll continue going on. So in terms of closing this great panel?
Not so many to add, because I think I was just to jump in what Clement said, because I was really, really interested to make the link between what is presented and what we are doing at the African Continental Free Trade Area. And what also Pam mentioned is very key for us. So that is something very important for us, to link all these people to show how this project, how this agreement can ease the daily life of all of those components. So I will not take too much time. I just want to thank you on behalf of the Secretariat to have invited us to this meeting. Thank you.
From my side, if I may just come in, as a customer and recipient of the services that construction and real estate provides, I'm really encouraged with Mr. Lomu's comments that the African Continental Free Trade Area really opens up vistas of opportunity for us to work that much better together, to partner across borders, and to deliver world-class projects. And the key thing that we expect as a customer is just to make sure that whatever we do on the construction and real estate side contributes to sustainable local economic development. We want the value chains to absorb local entrepreneurs, local business people, especially the youth and women that are usually excluded in big projects. And we always look to our partners that we work with in construction and real estate. And in negotiating the partnership, we do articulate very explicitly what our expectations are, because we want to make sure that people and communities are better off for us having been there in every country in Africa where we invest, in every community in Africa where we invest. And I'm very excited with what the African Continental Free Trade Area offers. And I was very encouraged by what Matt and Pam and Clement said around the issue of standards, education, and ethics. We're very strong as a company that's governed in the New York Stock Exchange and subject to Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of the USA and the SEC requirements. Wherever we operate, ethics are at the core of how we do business, and anti-corruption is so central in the manner in which we operate. And we see ourselves as a catalyst for the modernization of Africa, African economies, and African value chains and supply chains. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kuseni. Thank you so much. Nii, do you want to say something quickly?
Yeah, thanks. So from a funding perspective, I think one of the things to highlight is, and we say it all the time, but perhaps it doesn't resonate enough, that the market, Africa is not a homogeneous market. 54 countries, very different dynamics in each country. And those dynamics affect how you fund projects. It creates the demand calibration considerations for each of those markets. It's important to note that in the international real estate markets, less than 1% of international capital flows to real estate flows into the continent. That's including South Africa, where where the supply of property is at a much higher stage than most of the other countries in the continent. But the reality is that the market is characterized by structural undersupply. The resolution is finding solutions to addressing that structural undersupply in a sustainable way, and for financing to play a role in that. Unlike most of the markets, financing is a permanent capital, or should I say debt financing is a permanent part of the capital structure, and it's important to consider it as that. In terms of accessing capital, it's then really about dimensioning what market is addressable in each of the traditional and non-traditional real estate segments, and ensuring that the legal and regulatory environment is adequate to support investment, and to support the flow of institutional capital into those markets, and then execution capacity, which is where the likes of the RICS perhaps comes into play, and supporting institutional tenants like Massmart. And that happens successfully primarily through partnerships with institutional capital but domestic competence. And that synergy has to continue to roll to attract capital, to ensure that the capital sources deployed in the market continue to be sustainable. And with that symbiotic relationship, management capacity that is relative or relevant to the markets continue to evolve and continue to develop. From an outlook perspective, what we see is a continuous domination of domestic capital sources to develop the continent from an ingrown perspective. Currently dominated largely by international capital, but there has to be a mix of both international and domestic capital. One, to make the market appealing to international capital sources, but again to create assets that support the built environment and quality of lives in the countries. So it is, that is the path that we, from a Standard Bank point of view, continue to contribute to, working with a number of clients that are deploying assets or at a Pan-African level. Some limited to specific geographies, others operating across multiple countries, and across a wide footprint. I think those are perhaps the bits to highlight. And maybe the last point on the closing remark is the one thing that is important to note is that the investment structures in capital funding, or should I say funding to real estate in the market, continue to evolve. And ultimately, what is necessary for sustainability is the completion of the real estate value chain, right from development, institutional capital flows to capital market activities that continue to create a seamless cycle of capital flowing in and out of the sector across different traditional and non-traditional subsectors within the market. Let me end at that. I hope it's made sense to the people listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nate. It absolutely does, and I think we're thrown off a bit, but I think everything interlinks. And thank you, Mr. Lomo, as well. The whole idea of this panel is to see how all of us as stakeholders in the construction and real estate interlink and work together and have these conversations so that we get the desired results, to make sure we deliver, for future generations, to make sure we leave the continent cleaner, to make sure on the education aspect, people are up to speed and scratch in terms of, construction and real estate. And as you've had, now we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. I think that's so critical. And, I know we had a lot to talk about that, but that is critical because it opens up borders for trade. And when we say trade, construction and real estate and infrastructure, basically the built environment is part of that. And what that has done is then enabled conversations like governing bodies like the RICS that have a global responsibility and duty of standards and ethics to work with, or maybe these conversations to happen so that that communication is happening. And for clients like Kuseni, with growing portfolios or businesses being set up in different countries, this is made easier for your portfolio to set up, because now the standards and the communication, anybody from Mozambique can be able to contribute to construction of your plant or manufacture retail store or a retail store in Nairobi. So it's so important. And then Matt, for what you do as a construction consultancy firm, is to be able to set up entities in different countries to compete, to be able to to deliver for your clients locally and global. And then for NI, of course, to enable the funding, to enable payments, to enable real estate growth, to enable infrastructure growth, because all these things interlink. And PAM, of course, on the education piece, that when it's all said and done, we need to take a step back and make sure whatever infrastructure we are using in terms of delivering for the construction and real estate, there's a serious educational piece to be thought about. It's quick. It's okay for people to say, yes, we're getting, it's digital transformation, we are getting all this technology, but what does it mean? What does it mean in terms of understanding the contracts within real estate, the property management, asset management? So, I mean, with that, I would like to, to thank the panel. Thank you so much for your time. People won't appreciate what has gone on behind the scenes in terms of getting all of us together and contributing our information and thoughts. But thank you so much for sparing your time. And to the audience, thank you for being patient with us. And to Christine and team, Busi and team, thank you so much for granting us an opportunity to share our thoughts, have these conversations. And I'm sure between us, with the people listening, these conversations are going to go ahead in order to make sure. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks to you, Alan, for being a great moderator.